Hey guys, welcome to video number 10 of the CKA series. This video is about static and stateful pods and DaemonSets. We learned that Kubernetes deployments are one of the best ways to manage pods. They give us scaling, automation, and control. But here's something most people only realize when they build real systems on Kubernetes. Deployments are not enough. Because in real-world infrastructure, you don't just need pods to run. You need control over where they run, how they behave, and what they remember when they restart. So let's make it real. Imagine Kubernetes as a country like the United States or India, and every node in this cluster is like a state: Texas, Washington, Arizona. Each state has its own cities, its own responsibilities, and its own security needs. Now imagine every application in this country is like a pizza franchisee. Orders come in from a central system, pizza shops are created automatically, and any shop can serve any order. Sounds perfect, right? But here's the problem. Deployments don't understand geography. They only care about the load, resource availability, scheduling efficiency. So what happens? The scheduler says, this node is free, I'll place everything on it. So the problem? Texas gets 10 pizza drivers. Washington and Arizona, they get none. Now here's what this actually means in real terms. Even though our system is running across 3 states and we have enough total resources, which are the drivers, they are not distributed where they are actually needed. So what happens in practice? A customer places an order in Washington, but there are no local drivers available. So a driver has to travel all the way from Texas to Washington just to deliver a pizza. That's insufficient, slow, and completely unnecessary. Now think about it. Wouldn't it make far more sense to have drivers already stationed in Washington and Arizona so they can serve local customers instantly? But Kubernetes deployments don't think that way. They care about overall load, available capacity, and scheduling efficiency. So pods get placed where the cluster has free space, even if that means concentrating everything in one state, leaving others completely empty. This leads to poor distribution, wasted resources, and real-world inefficiencies in the system. And that's exactly the problem we are trying to solve. Now imagine this isn't a pizza delivery. Imagine this is security infrastructure. Texas now has all the police, all the army units, and all the monitoring systems, and other states, they are completely unprotected. Deployments give you scalability, but they do not guarantee the placement control. And this is where Kubernetes starts to become truly powerful, because real systems don't just need scaling, they need structure, reliability, and memory. In real Kubernetes environment, not all workloads behave the same. Different systems have different expectations from the cluster. These are the critical pods. Some workloads need survival even when control plane is gone. They must continue running even if the central management components fail. For example, even if the Kubernetes API is down, essential system components should still remain active on the nodes. And if one of these critical pods crashes, the node itself should be responsible for bringing it back up, not the control plane. In other words, the system should be able to self-heal locally without depending on central coordination. And some workloads need memory and continuity. Then there are applications that cannot afford to start fresh every time they restart. They must retain identity. They must retain data. They must resume exactly where the previous instance left off. A replacement pod should behave like a continuation, not a brand new instance with no history. And some workloads in the cluster require full cluster-wide coverage. Finally, these are the systems that must exist everywhere in the cluster, without exception. A pod must run on every node. No two identical pods should unnecessarily compete on the same node. When new nodes are added, pods must automatically appear there. When nodes leave, pod must clean themselves up automatically. This ensures complete, consistent coverage across the entire cluster at all times, with zero manual intervention. And this is exactly why Kubernetes is not just about running containers. It is about designing behavioral guarantees for distributed systems. Now let's see how these issues are addressed one by one. Imagine each state has critical security systems running inside it. But now, what if the central government, the Kubernetes control plane, goes down? In a normal deployment-based system, if a police officer goes missing, the replacement process actually depends on the central government to notice and re-assign it. So if the central government is down, no new officers are assigned, no replacements happen, no new coordination is possible. Everything that is already running may continue for a while, but the system cannot recover, scale, or self-heal properly anymore. So the question is, who's responsible for replacing officers when they fail? Because when the control plane is down, deployments stop making decisions, and only locally managed systems can continue to self-heal. This is where static pods comes to the rescue. Static pods are special pods in Kubernetes that are not created or managed through the Kubernetes API server. Instead, they are defined and controlled directly at the node level. In simple terms, these are the pods that live outside normal Kubernetes control loop, but are still part of the cluster. How are these static pods managed? Static pods are managed by kubelet, which runs on every node and acts as the local node agent. And here's how it works. A pod definition, which is the YAML file, is placed directly on the node, usually inside a specific directory. It is /etc/kubernetes/manifest. The kubelet continuously watches this directory. When it sees a YAML file, it automatically creates the pod locally on that node. If the pod crashes, the kubelet restarts it automatically. If the app server is unavailable, kubelet continues managing these pods independently. So what are the characteristics of static pods? These are created directly on the node, managed by kubelet, which is the local authority, not scheduled by kubelet scheduler, do not depend on the API server for lifecycle management. Fifth, automatically restarted by kubelet if they fail. And sixth, visible in API server as mirror pods, read-only representation. So why do they matter? Static pods ensure that critical system components can keep running even when the control plane is unavailable, because their lifecycle does not depend on central Kubernetes decision making. Static pods are Kubernetes emergency self-management layer, where each node takes responsibility for keeping critical workload alive, even when the central brain is down. So when we create our static police force by placing it under the local authority, that is its config department, is under etc config manifest on each state or node, the state gets the power to manage and restart the policeman in real systems antivirus agents by its own, without the orders from the central authority. So even if the central government is down, these pods still function. So even if the central government is down, police is still functional. So static pods typically run kube API server, kube scheduler, kube control manager, and etcd. These are the backbone of Kubernetes itself. Now imagine another case, a deployment control pizza chef working inside a pizza franchisee system. He receives orders from the central order book, which is the database. He prepares pizza step by step, and he updates the order status after completion in the database. Everything is working perfectly. Now the problem. One day, the chef collapses. Kubernetes replaces him instantly. A new chef arrives, but something is wrong. He doesn't know what the previous chef was doing. How was he receiving orders and making them complete? What role he had? Main chef, assistant chef, or backup chef? What was his identity in the system? So basically, here's the problem with this chef. First, he is directly thrown into production with no idea what the last chef was doing. So no previous orders, no progress tracking, no state retained. New pod is equal to new identity, new IP, and no attached persistent storage. Second, identity confusion. The new pod looks like this. Nobody knows who's who anymore. Third, no fixed workstation. The new chef might get a kitchen in a different state altogether. Let's say the old chef collapsed in Washington, but the new one came up in Arizona. Fourth, No guaranteed storage. The new chef doesn't know where to look for the orders and where to update. He has no memory. What just happened? The new chef woke up, enters the kitchen, and now he doesn't know where the things are in order to start working. He's blank, totally blank. He has no order book, no memory, no previous work. Orders are lost, a complete system failure, total chaos. This is where StatefulSets come to rescue. They create chefs with permanent identity like this. So let's say chef 0 is the primary chef, chef 1, assistant chef, chef 2 is the backup chef. Each one has a permanent identity. Let's say if chef 1 crashes, when Kubernetes replaces chef 1 with a new one, the new chef will have the same identity as chef 1. He will have the same name, which is chef 1, and will assume the same role and will pick up exactly where chef 1 left. Static pods maintain a persistent order book. Always reads from the same database. Always writes update backs. Memory is never lost. And the new chef gets respawned in the same kitchen. Same stove, same workspace, same storage. They wake up exactly where they left off. So stateful sets ensure your system remembers even after restart, failure, or rescheduling. So what kind of apps would even need to be stateful? Databases, MySQL or PostgreSQL or any other database. Database pods need stable access to the DB volume. They need stable identity. That is, if a pod named chef 1 dies, the new one should have the same name, chef 1, and must have the same role as the last one. Chef 1 who died was the assistant chef, so the new one replacing him should become the same, not the main chef or not the backup chef, just the same, and must be aware of the database volumes and be able to read and write to the same database when needed. A stateful chef may collapse, but the new one continues cooking exactly where the last one left. Now the third problem with the deployment pods. Now imagine a country where every state must be continuously monitored. You don't want some states monitored, some states ignored, and some states over-monitored. You want complete, uniform coverage across the entire country. And whenever a new state joins the country, monitoring systems must automatically appear there, start collecting data immediately, and without any manual intervention. And similarly, if a state leaves the country, the monitoring system for that state must automatically shut down and clean itself up. Let's understand this with this example. Each state has its own traffic police department, supported by an intelligent monitoring satellite system hovering over the state. Together, they monitor every road continuously, log every violation in real time, collect system-wide telemetry and security data. And if a new state is formed, traffic police plus the satellite system automatically deploy there. If a state is removed, both systems are automatically decommissioned. Everything is self-managed and self-synchronized with the country's structure. Now, this is something that cannot be ensured by deployment. Deployment doesn't guarantee that a particular type of pod will be created on every single node. But this is where DaemonSets come in handy. They ensure pods deployed by them run on each node, one pod per node, automatically deployed on every node in the cluster, automatically removed when the nodes leave, ensure full consistent cluster-wide coverage at all times. If we tried to do this using deployments instead, some states would get monitoring agents, some states might get none, and some states could even get multiple overlapping agents. This creates blind spots, duplication, and chaos in observability and security. In our case, we are smart. We deployed these agents using DaemonSets. So Texas gets one monitoring pod, Washington gets one monitoring pod, and Arizona gets one monitoring pod. And if a new node or state is added to the country or to the cluster, a pod is automatically created there. And if a node or state is removed, its pod automatically cleaned up. Always consistent, always synchronized, and always complete. So remember, DaemonSets don't ask where to run. They ensure they run everywhere where they are needed and disappear where they are not needed. So in real world, what kind of applications would be deployed using DaemonSets? Well, as I said, node monitoring agents like Prometheus, log collectors like FluentD or FluentBit, or security agents, EDR, XDR agents to provide security to the node, or kubeproxy. Remember the signboards that are deployed on every node so that the pods running on the nodes can know about every single pod running in the same cluster on other nodes. So here's the mental model for you, my friends, to determine what to use to deploy pods and when. Static pods. You will deploy static pods when the pods must survive even if the control plane is offline. You will deploy stateful pods when pods needs a persistent identity and continuous access to database and volumes. And you will deploy DaemonSets when you need to ensure that one pod gets deployed on every node and auto-deployed on new nodes joining the cluster and auto-cleared when a node exits a cluster without any manual intervention. So now you see the real limitations of deployments. They are powerful, but they only solve one problem: scaling. But in real world, systems need more: survival even when the control plane is unavailable. Memory. The new pods must pick up where the last one left. Coverage. The pod should be covering the whole cluster. Kubernetes is not just about running containers. It's about building a system that behaves like a real country with security, memory, and structure everywhere it runs. Now you understand why deployments alone are not enough. You have seen the problems and the concepts that solve them. But Kubernetes is not something you just understand. It's something you experience. In the next part, we will jump into the lab. I'll expand my cluster to 3 nodes, and we will see how deployments fail in these scenarios, how static pods behave when control plane is affected, how stateful sets retain memory, and how DaemonSets ensure one pod per node. Let's go from theory to reality. So guys, if this finally made Kubernetes click for you, drop a like so I know to keep going deeper like this. Share this with someone you are learning with. These concepts become way easier when we grow together. And if you're serious about cracking the CKA and actually understand Kubernetes, not just memorize commands, hit subscribe. I'm building a complete, free path to CKA, covering every topic with real-world examples, demos, and clear explanations you can trust. No fluff, no shortcut, just concepts that stick and skills you can use. New videos are coming consistently, each one designed to take you one step closer to becoming a confident Kubernetes engineer. Let's build this together.